Howdy do, howdy do. This is Mr. Bruce. I am so excited. We are going live right now on YouTube and even on Twitch. And this is a first for us. We are actually going to go live with the ladies from Jam City, okay? And they are here to share with us as the first part of a series we're doing for women in tech. This is for our Girls Who Code Club after school, as well as for other students who might be interested in finding out more about the tech industry as well as the gaming industry. And these ladies are here to share their knowledge and experience. And in order for us to get a better picture of what Jam City is, we're going to have one of our students, Sarah. She's going to share as a member of Girls Who Code. Sarah is going to share a brief introduction of what Jam City is. And so, Sarah, here we go. Are you ready? All right, go ahead, Sarah. Let them know.
Company providing unique and deeply engaging mobile games that are played by tens of millions of people across the globe. Jam City is the creative powerhouse behind some of the highest grossing and most enduring mobile games. Jam City Global franchise Cookies Jam has generated more than $500 million, and Panda Pop has more than 140 million downloads to date.
Wow, thank you, Sarah. I'm definitely proud of you as a member of our group, Girls Who Code, and definitely check in with your group and your village so that you can tune in for the rest of the show. All right, here we go. And so what we have today, right, is a group of ladies who work with Jam City in numerous places, and most of them are working remotely as well. And so they may not be in the headquarters or the main offices, but who we have are Nane Sagasan, software engineer, right? And we also have Ali Habib, who is a producer with Jam City. And then we have Kelly Weewin, associate content game designer. And then we have Norma too, who also is a content game designer. All right. And so, ladies, above anything else, thank you for being here. Thank you for, offering your time and what you know to share with us. And so thank you for coming out and sharing. All right. And so I wanted to start this off with, that thank you, but also I just want to recognize Norma. I saw Norma on a panel on Twitch months ago, and I was just so excited because I was like, wait a minute. I said, here I am doing this group, Girls Who Code, and I said, she's right up the street. Let me try and contact her. And so, like I try to tell people all the time, don't be afraid to DM or, message somebody. You never know what type of response you get. You never know. Someone may actually say, hey, you know what? That sounds cool. And so thank you for helping get this together, Norma. I truly appreciate it. And I respect you even more now. Right. So thank you. All right. And so, ladies, let me get to these questions that we have for you to begin with. So, as women involved in the technology industry, when or at what age did you first discover an interest in technology or related fields of study? And we can start with you, Ali.
Okay, yeah. So for me, I grew up with a twin brother, so we had to share most things, including games. And Just as a heads up, I actually am going to be answering this from the perspective of being in the gaming industry, just because that's more of my skill set. I'm less on the tech side of things, more on the business side of things. But I started with Game Boy and N64 when we were in middle school, I think. But that carried over to other systems as we grew up. And I feel very fortunate to have been encouraged to play games by my brother and my parents. But what's funny is for the longest time, I felt like I was an imposter and wouldn't even call myself a gamer because I never played your typical like sweaty competitive multiplayer games like Call of Duty. And at the time, there was the sentiment in the community that if you didn't play these types of games, then you weren't like a true gamer. It wasn't until many years later that I met a friend who helped me realize that if you play these games, it doesn't matter what kinds of games, you're a gamer. And by recognizing that, self-identifying with that, and then participating in the culture in the industry, you can really help shape what the space of gaming is and can become. And I even play some competitive multiplayer games now because I'm no longer afraid to be a part of that. And that's my story.
Wow, great. And so, Norma, can you share with us what was your experience leading to this?
Yeah, certainly. I had an upbringing where I was meant to be a doctor, or otherwise I would not be a daughter to my family. And then I was like just primarily in the books, left to myself. And one day, magically, I came across Pokemon Blue on the Game Boy Color, and that changed my world as to what life could be like. And I want to make games that make that experience for other people. For the first time ever, I felt right just being part of an immersive story, being part of something that's just for fun, and being part of something that meant that me, just a regular kid, entrusted to go off into the world, was capable of saving the world and treated with regular dignity and respect. So I went into design, and I was not necessarily going to be a designer at first. When I was in college, I was going to be a 3D artist, but then I realized that my heart was with design because I like preserving the dignity of the player, and a lot of that comes with design. So there you go. You have Pokemon to thank for having me in the industry today.
All right. And so from there, we'll just go on to Kelly.
Hi. So, well, I, like both of these ladies, always was a bit interested in gaming, but I was always more focused on the art side. I actually grew up wanting to be an artist and started a major in the animation industry of all things. I got a bit of ways in and I wasn't doing badly, but I was like, well, I don't know if this is where I want my focus to be. But I was really interested in the idea of interactivity. So I sat down, talked with a helpful professor, and we ended up deciding that it wouldn't be a bad idea for me to switch majors. So from there, I went to arts and technology, which happened to have a focus on game design. And the more I learned about that, the more interested I became. So I went from drawing art to games, to learning how to design games, to actually learning how to program games as well. Because if you're able to program games, then you can go and make some of your own games or make prototypes and kind of get more people on board with your idea. Which actually, that got me my first job in the industry, not at this company, but at my first one. From there, I was able to get to Jam City as a designer because although I do love coding, I like designing just a bit more. So fortunately, I was able to get this position now. But it's been a very curvy road getting here for sure.
Okay, thank you. And Ane, can you give us your, journey into this industry?
Yeah, hi. So I've discovered my interest in technology at a very young age, probably when I was like 3 or 4 years old. As I would see my dad coding, which was actually his hobby, not his profession. And I loved games. And when I realized that by coding you can make games, I would ask him questions about it nonstop. And like the situation was so critical that instead of bedtime stories, he would tell me about programming basics in C++. But actually, I've had my challenges because, like, in the country where I was born and raised, in Armenia, the stereotypes about women in tech and in coding especially comes with very deep roots. And for example, at school, the teachers would always suggest me to drop the coding, the math related things, and deepen my knowledge in arts related subjects. Also because I was also good at drawing. I still am. I still use it every day. Luckily, I was encouraged by my parents and my friends to continue on learning and like creating small applications, small games on my own. And eventually, during the middle school and high school, when I participated in some student game competitions, and I got some awards, I was able to get an internship at some local game development companies. From there, my knowledge and interest and career in this field grow exponentially, and not only in coding but also in art as well, because I was combining them, which was the most fun for me, because when you're tired of coding the game, you start drawing for the same game. It becomes a very nice balance. And eventually I was able to go to the US and got into Gem City.
So wait a minute. I hate to go off script right here, but you were 2 or 3, you said, when you started?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
it was actually my first
when you
memory.
shared half of your story, and then you said, and then in middle school, you did all that in elementary school?
Yeah, well, actually, my first memory of my childhood is sitting in my bed and saying, I'm going to become a programmer. And I did not know what that actually meant at that time, but I knew this.
Wow. I mean, okay, so I've got some students that are probably listening right now that need to know that by the time you got to middle school, you were already established on your track to
I
coding.
wasn't established, but I was determined that that's how I'm going to continue my future.
Amazing.
Okay.
That is refreshing to hear. Wow. All right.
Thank you.
And so from there, what brought each of you to Jam City, you know, as like this landing place for you in the technology field? And we'll start with Kelly.
I would say for me, it was the appeal of stability as well as good company culture. GM City has a great reputation, but also to explain stability a bit, the company I came from was a nonprofit startup, which is very exciting and very interesting, but does have the caveat of sometimes you have to scramble a bit to find funding. And while that was, again, very exciting, after a while, I wanted something with just a bit more stability.
Totally understandable. Yes. And so, Norma, how about you?
Yeah. For me, I was a new grad that just finished college in 2017 and playing mobile games all day. So since I took a couple mobile game classes that taught me Android development and taught me Swift iOS development, I was like, hey, I'm actually really interested in this. I should go look for mobile companies. So I would just open up the games that I was playing and pay attention to the beginning credits about which studios they were from. And I came across Jam City. And my mom actually introduced me to Cookie Jam because she was addicted to it and got stuck somewhere and wanted me to fix the problem. So I fixed the problem and helped her beat the game, and then wound up getting really into the game myself, then realized, oh boy, there's an opening on that exact team and that exact game. I should go for it. And here we are.
Wow. Well, let's thank Cookie Jam for that. All right, cool. Okay, and Ali, how about you?
Yeah, I actually started out in animation, similar to Kelly. I didn't realize. I always had a fascination with media and the power of storytelling. So I started an internship at DreamWorks that morphed into other jobs there related to story and production. But I always had this like nagging question, what it would be like to work in games, which was a personal passion of mine. And I always saw games as like more of a personal form of storytelling because of how interactive it is. You don't just sit there and watch it happen; you actually make it happen. So I pivoted over to the games group at DreamWorks, and then from there started working for NBC Universal Games. And then when an opportunity to work for Jam City came my way, I just saw it as a chance to further my growth by learning the skills needed to be able to build a game from like the developer side rather than like the intellectual property publisher side. And I would say that sometimes it can be hard to make that switch from one industry to another. But if you can find a half step, like I did between the DreamWorks Film Group and their games group, that's helpful. It's also really helpful just to make friends with people in other industries. Often you have a friend of a friend that works in the industry you want to be in. So, yeah.
All right. And so here we go. My man, what got you here?
Well, actually, a few months ago, when I came to the US for the first time as a legal resident, I stumbled upon a question. Do I want to continue my education and transfer to a different university? As I was already studying for 2 years in Armenia at the university for the computer science, or I could start working. Actually, that was a very controversial topic because for some people, getting a higher education and getting a diploma is like a key to the successful career. And for some people, they base on their career based on their experience. So I decided to risk it and started applying to software engineer positions. I also had a lot of experience in it because I was always a part-time employee in those companies in Armenia. So I started to apply to companies here, and very soon I started to get offers, and Jam City was among them. And why I chose Jam City, because that was a place where I would see myself not just working, but also having fun while working. And it was the most inclusive and fun place to work.
Wow. All right. Well, I appreciate it. So this next question, I'm going to gear it towards Norma and Allie. And here we go. How do you see the gender gap in the gaming field being narrowed in areas like game development, graphic design, marketing, and more? And Norma, you can start.
Me first. Okay. Exactly how we're doing it now. Outreach. Whenever we have a chance to show the kids of the future that there are women just like them, or they're not women, they're girls, ladies just like them in roles that they could have never imagined themselves in, they suddenly start to imagining themselves in this role and believe that they can do it. And that's what many game studios across different types of games, mobile games, AAA games, all sorts of game studios are doing outreach events just like this.
Sweet. How about you, Allie?
Yeah, so this is actually a really interesting topic to me because it has a lot to do with like the history of video games. And I want to start out by saying I'm not trying to point fingers. I'm just trying to give some context for why the game industry landed where it did. When the first Nintendo system debuted, Nintendo had to pick which aisle it would be displayed in. And instead of picking the electronics aisle like Atari did, they chose to put it in the toy aisle specifically for boys, in the boys' toy aisle. So two big impacts of this are it told girls that this is something for boys. It's their space, not ours. And it had the effect of ultimately gearing the game content, such as their stories and their characters towards what they saw as stereotypically male or male appealing. What you see as a result of this is that some boys saw girls getting involved in games as invading this group of theirs. And that led to some toxic behavior towards girls in online spaces, which can be pretty discouraging. It also meant that some guys tended to want to work in video games because that was their space. On top of that, you had a lot of games that portrayed women in pretty unempowering ways. And you frequently had to play as like a straight white male character. And I don't want to get too far into this, but a lot of this led to the fact that game making was dominated by the same group of people for a bit. So you see a lot of similar types of games and games perspectives come out during that time. I mean, like, I love Uncharted, the Uncharted series, but how many video game characters out there look like Nathan Drake? There's just so many brown-haired white dude characters out there. It's crazy. But the thing is, all of this did not stop girls from playing games. And the more we played, the more we wanted to be involved in making them. And so you slowly start to see more and more women in the field, role models that are paving the way for others. Representation is just so key to understanding that you belong. There's this really, really great program that Gina Davis is doing, but she has this quote that's, if you can see it, you can be it. And if you have media representation and other powerful figures out there, like it just gives you the idea that, like, look, this is my space. I can be there too. On top of that, like, as the video game industry got bigger and more competitive, you start to see the desire for something different. And the thing is that the more diverse backgrounds that you have, the more perspectives you have, and that can just lead to better, more unique games. At the end of the day, as more people are encouraging girls to play games and find games that they like, we just get more women in the industry, and it just continues to grow. And I also have a list of games I'd recommend for anyone that isn't interested in your standard, like, Call of Duty type game. I can share that later in another way if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, I totally appreciate it, and your perspective, helps me understand, because for the longest, if you weren't rescuing a princess with Donkey Kong or Zelda, you weren't gaming, you know what I mean? And so that whole idea of a woman's place in gaming shifting over time, definitely thank you for that perspective. That helps me understand it, as well as hopefully some other person who may not even remember when Nintendo was in the boys section.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, and the interesting thing is, a lot of data we have right now shows that it's at least 50% women gamers, 50% male gamers out there. In some data that we have, it's actually more female gamers than it is male gamers. So, yeah.
Yes, definitely. I appreciate that right there. Look, this one is, one that, I'll, put with Norma and Lene. This is, just a question, based upon your position with Jam City. What would you consider to be your role in developing the next generation of women in the field of technology? And we'll start with Lene. Oh, you're still on mute.
Sorry. So in my personal opinion, I think that when women who want to join the tech industry, especially when they want to join in coding, and when they see that there are only men among that field, sometimes that can be really discouraging. I myself, in my previous jobs, have been one of the only, if not the only, female game developer. It honestly was sometimes a little bit overwhelming. I mean, I was a teenage high school student working alongside senior male developers, going to the same meetings with them. That feeling that I was just a little girl among these men was a bit weird at that time. But I've observed that when a female employee joins a team and they see that they're not the only woman employed there, especially in tech field. They're not the only woman coding developer there, and that that every employee, no matter their sex, has equal role and opportunity of growing there. It gives them a lot more confidence. I believe that as the number of I believe that being in a team where the number of female developers is growing, that it will be more comfortable and for other women to join the field as well. And as my long-term goal, as for my position, I think that we can break those stereotypes and create a society where when people hear someone's job title and in front of it a word female, they will not be surprised. I mean, when they hear, for example, a female programmer, female surgeon, female astronaut, they will not be surprised by it. I mean, you don't say male developer, do you? So the guys don't have to prove themselves in their role, so why should women? So I really hope that there will be only developer, and that will mean both male and female.
Yeah, that would be a perfect world. I mean, and I say that because our original group of ladies that worked on Girls Who Code this summer, they looked at that. They looked at the pink tax and the tampon tax and things of that nature. How can a woman do the same job as a man and be paid 15 to 20% less than a man and still have the same title, and all these different things. Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing, the point of view that, why should a woman have to justify herself in a position, and plus get beyond the shock value of, oh, you do that?
No, I don't. Because in Jump City, we're all like equal. I never feel like the male developers, for example, in our team are superior to me, like in role wise,
Thank you. Yes. And Norma, what do you see as your role in, developing this next generation of women in the field of technology?
There's this quote that is famous, and I think you'll know when I say it: be the change you want to see in the world. I think that's absolutely my role. When I was growing up, I didn't even know what a programmer was. I didn't even know computer science was a thing that I could learn. And I think it's my role to be as visible as possible so that the kids of the future can know that their world possibilities are much vaster than what they see in school.
Yeah, thank you. That's I believe that was Mahatma Gandhi that said that. Be the change you want to see, right?
Very famous.
Yeah, definitely. And so I want to wrap this up with a question for Ali, Norma, and Kelly. And it goes, since you mentioned Gandhi, a very inspirational figure. Can you name one person that inspires your work daily and why they're that inspiration for you? Let's start with Kelly, since we haven't heard from her in a while.
Sure. So actually, I would hesitate to limit it to just one person. Certainly, there's been a lot of people who have helped me along my journey. I mean, you've got teachers, you've got mentors, you've got my dad, who was one of the first people who kind of sat me down and was like, hey, here's kind of the basics of coding, because he happens to do that for a living. But I think limiting it to one person is a bit small, because I'm also very much inspired daily by whatever I happen to currently be playing or watching or listening to: podcasts, TVs, movies, games, etc. And that's really valuable, because as a designer, you never know when you're going to get called on to make a game about something really weird, like, say, haunted gardens or something. And that knowledge as something that you can draw on as a background is really useful.
Wow, that was insightful. All right, Norma.
Me? Okay. Just like Kelly, I have a lot of inspirations to be thankful for. I have my mentors. I have the other women in games who have lifted me up. Like, it's really amazing to see how kind and human the games industry can be, because we've all been through challenges of our own trying to break in. It's incredibly competitive and hard. And we've also seen people lift each other up whenever times got tough. So I'm inspired by the people who show compassion in their work, are great leaders by example, and just make every day better by being themselves.
Oh, gracias. All right, Ali, bring it home.
Yeah, so there's a friend of mine I mentioned earlier who's just like insanely talented at making video games. She's just really knowledgeable, well-spoken, just truly an all-star. But one day she told me she had imposter syndrome, which basically is this idea that she felt like she wasn't qualified to be making video games. And that was just so eye-opening to me, because this was like a feeling that I also had. But if she felt that, and I know she's the best of the best, then what I was feeling must not be true either. And it was just really empowering to see that this feeling was really common among women who work in games, and that it was okay to acknowledge it so that you can overcome it. On top of that, she just constantly spoke her mind in meetings and always encouraged me to do the same. And it just grants you this confidence that's so necessary in your day-to-day life.
Wow. Wow. I sincerely hope that, some young woman has truly heard you all in what you've shared, and the whole, dynamics of not just doing a job in the industry, but actually you guys taking some form of responsibility as, women in the industry that is shifting. And much like Ali, mentioned before, the numbers and statistics say that there are plenty of women out there gaming, and it's up to the industry and those that support the industry to shift those images of women that we might see on the screen and that might be projected that every woman can be a hero, and that's what we try to get our girls, our young ladies to understand through Girls Who Code. And for you girls that are out there watching from Epiphany, Girls Who Code, we meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Don't miss it. This is the Meet, Google Meet. Come on. We're going to try to do more, have more women, and we're not just open for girls. We're open for those who also are comfortable and support a girl empowered environment. And I say that because we do have guys that participate in Girls Who Code. Girls Who Code is the name of the group, but we do have guys that participate because we do Scratch, we do other coding activities. And as long as you're comfortable with a woman having an equal place and a focus of empowerment that helps her feel lifted up, then you are welcome to be part of Girls Who Code at Epiphany. Ladies, I want to thank you again for, just giving us your time and sharing during what other people call these unprecedented times. And I truly appreciate what Jam City has been able to do. And we will definitely be in touch with you as we move forward. And our team continues this series of Women in Tech. And so, wow, much love to you and all that you've been able to offer us. And thank you for allowing, my girls, particularly Sarah, in order to share. And Sarah, you did a great job with the introduction of Jam City. And ladies, I'm impressed. And I'll continue to be an advocate for women in the tech field. All right. We're out of here right now. And you guys have a great day. And for my students in base after school, jump on those games. It's time to go. And my Minecraft team, we're meeting up at 4. Peace.